Well, just when you think the grim downfall of Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor couldn't get any worse, it does. It does. It really does. Because now the focus isn't only on the former prince and his ties to Jeffrey Epstein, it's completely shifted to the people who were literally paid by the taxpayer to be at his shoulder. His former close protection officers. The Metropolitan Police have announced that they're making initial inquiries into claims that the Royal Protection Officers may have turned a blind eye during trips connected to Epstein, including alleged visits to Epstein's private island. And it's just the latest twist in a saga that has moved from salacious headline into serious institutional questions about the royal family and those operating in those gilded circles. Now, let's break it down. The new development is that police are examining claims about the conduct of former royal protection officers assigned to Andrew. To be clear, this doesn't mean anyone has been charged, and it does not prove any wrongdoing, but the Met's language, initial inquiries, is cautious for a reason, and we'll come back to that. This matters because the question now is, what did official protection officers witness, and what did they know about it? And what did they do about it? According to reporting in the UK media, the claims include that the officers accompanied Andrew on trips linked to Epstein and may have seen things that they should have reported. This ties into other stories that have been percolating since the drop of the Epstein files earlier this month. Sources have spoken out, and they claimed that Andrew used a specific code phrase to have young women admitted into Buckingham Palace and other residences that he lived in. According to anonymous palace insiders, Andrew would allegedly call the duty office and say, "Mrs. Windsor will arrive shortly, please. Show her up. Let her in." It makes you want to throw up when you hear this type of terminology post what we now know about Andrew's very nefarious activities. Now, according to these sources, the phrase signaled to staff to admit a female visitor through a discreet entrance, sometimes with little or no formal security entrance recorded. And this is a real problem. People think that the palace is this very, very secure building. It's very controlled who goes in and out. Now, it's reported that some of these people that were let in and out were Russian nationals, Eastern Europeans. That could potentially pose a massive security breach or security risk at that if they weren't even checked to ensure that they had anonymity and that Andrew could do whatever he liked with them. Some emails from the Epstein files suggest that several women from Epstein's network entered the palace with Andrew's permission, including reportedly references to a Romanian model, as I said, and a Russian woman attending private dinners while the late Queen Elizabeth was in Balmoral. Now, we all know that Prince Andrew was Mummy's favourite, so I guess he was waiting until Mummy was out of the house in order to conduct his activities, allegedly. We must clarify that these claims have not been reported in the press and have not been tested in court, but calls are growing for authorities to properly investigate Epstein's ties to the UK. Former Prime Minister Gordon Brown has pointed to emails referring to 90 flights in the UK on Epstein's Boeing jet, including arrivals at Stansted's private terminal. Some flights allegedly occurred after Epstein's 2008 conviction for sex trafficking involving a minor, and passenger logs were reportedly incomplete, with some individuals listed simply as female. Is that what they were to them? Just female? I guess so. So why does this now involve royal protection officers? That's the question. The Metropolitan Police protection officers were assigned to senior royals, and they are sworn officers. They are responsible for access, control, threat assessment, and reporting potential criminality. If these reports are accurate, then there are serious questions to answer. Were these victims formally logged? Were background checks carried out? Were protection officers informed? Were there reports that were filed? Who knows? Andrew has constantly denied wrongdoing in relation to this Epstein case, and obviously in 2022, he settled a civil claim in regards to Virginia Giuffre without admission of liability. So if secure royal premises were accessed through coded instructions, And if that intersected with individuals linked to Epstein's trafficking network, the issue becomes one of record keeping, accountability, and whether established safeguards were upheld by the palace and by him. Inquiry actually means checking what information's being alleged, confirming identities and timelines, assessing whether anything meets a criminal threshold, and deciding whether there's enough to escalate into a formal investigation. So the Met is being very careful here, and it's unlikely we're going to see any arrests made until a thorough investigation has been conducted. But it really does seem like there's one standard for Andrew and another for everyone else. Peter Mandelson, our former UK ambassador to the US, has had his house searched. Both of his houses were searched. Andrew hasn't had any of the sort. In fact, at the moment, he's just being moved out of Royal Lodge into a sort of holding pen before he then goes up and lives on the Sandringham estate. Now, more broadly speaking, there is a bigger question here about institutional cover-up and just who they are protecting. Epstein wasn't some sort of dodgy bloke with money. He was actually a figure with access to powerful people, and his criminality was documented for years. So when allegations like this surface that official systems such as security, policing, diplomacy may have been too relaxed around him, then you end up with one huge unavoidable question. Where was the cover-up? And who knew? We've heard from numerous royal police and political commentators in recent weeks calling for inquiries, all wanting to answer that question. Andrew, until 2013, was fourth in line to the monarchy. For years, he worked as a trade envoy for the UK government, a very cushy job that scored him many points across the world with many influential people. If all allegations around him, meaning Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, are proven to be true, are we meant to believe that not a single person in his staff or wider household knew what was going on and didn't inform anyone? This new strand around the protection officers is part of a much bigger reckoning for the royal family. And is this just the latest strand drawing the inner royal circle into question?